Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the 30 something podcast. My name is Tanya, and I'm here with my dear friend, Meher.
Waving at the screen.
For any of you that
Hi.
are not watching the video, she just waved. So that was a hello. This is a part 2 episode on a conversation we're having about community, primarily. Also, like what it looks like to build community when you move cities, like we both have recently. What does community from the East and the West look like? What are the differences in values there? And how do we navigate consolidating that as people who sit somewhere in the middle? And also as two people who have worked in tech for basically all of our career, we're going to touch on how technology and AI is affecting the way that we might approach community or orient our lives around community, whether tech is helping or if it's not helping.
It's really nice to be here. I also think it's interesting that Tanya and I have both worked in tech in really large cities. I lived in New York. Tanya has done that in London, and bringing those perspectives now to a different place and phase of our lives is interesting, and it's going to be a really fun conversation. So I hope you stick around.
Yeah. And if you're kind of interested in those topics, maybe listen to part 1. It'll give you a bit of context, and yeah, let's get to it.
And if you're not going to listen to them, first of all, why? Second of all, at least like, comment, and subscribe anyway. Thank you.
Please do. Thanks.
Being someone who has Eastern roots of your upbringing potentially, but living in the West or being so heavily influenced by the West, and then being two women who work in tech, how does that pan out for you? Like, where do you find yourself spread across the most? Oh, the deep breath. That should say it all.
Well, it's just an interesting question for me because, like, I'm half Chinese, half Scottish. I was born and partially raised in Hong Kong, which is like quite a hyper-capitalistic system on the surface, but with collectivist roots.
Yeah.
And I come from a family where, like, their values are pretty collectivist, but I never felt very deeply integrated in that family just because we were a little bit different. Like, we were the only ones that were not fully Chinese and stuff like that. So I think I always identified more with like a Western value set. But as I get older, like sometimes I do catch myself having pretty Eastern values around things. Like, just as an example, I don't know if this is truly Eastern or not. I think it maybe is. I don't even know if I saw examples of this necessarily as a child. But like, if you go over to a friend's house for dinner, for me, it is a gift to help you clean.
Yeah.
Like, I'll just help you clean.
Yeah.
The thought of sitting there while you've just done all the cooking and
It's
now
kinda
you're
crazy.
doing all the cleaning
It's
is like
crazy.
kind of crazy to me, especially if you're someone that is kind enough to be the person in the community that always invites people over. Why should you do all the work? But then the other side of the coin is I kind of expect you to do the same. And that's not like an exchange of value necessarily.
It's just like, how we do things.
Yeah, it's just how we do things. Like, we help each other.
Yeah.
Like, you don't need to serve me in this way. But I know there are some Eastern cultures that are very, like, you're my guest, do nothing, just sit there and enjoy.
Like it comes to, like, I was thinking of Persian cultures more specifically, where I'm surrounded by a lot of Persian people and friends. And they have this word called taruf, and it's basically like the sense of formality, or, the game you play of like, do you want this? And you say, no, no, no. Do you want this? No, no. You do that 5 times till one of you actually says yes. So in those cultures, the sense of being formal is so high that you don't actually go into the kitchen and help, because you're like, that's a guest. You're taking care of a guest,
But I think there's actually like a class element to this.
Oh,
like,
interesting. Tell me more.
The other dimension, which is the socioeconomic dimension, against the collectivist individualistic.
This is true.
Because I think, like, if you don't come from a particularly wealthy background, people generally, even in individualistic cultures to an extent, feel they just have a slightly different value set of like, we've got to support each other here in the trenches.
Yeah.
Like, you don't have the capacity all the time to take care of everything in your life when you're busy hustling for your life.
Yeah.
Like, I think people tend to show up more for each other, or maybe less performative about that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's fair too. Like, I think with a lot of my Persian friends in in relationship to me, they're very collectivist. I think I'm very open about the fact that, hey, guys, I host a lot. I expect people to come and know where things are in my kitchen. Feel free to help yourself. If I'm like in the middle of doing something else and you want tea, put on the kettle. Ask anyone else if they want tea.
Yeah.
And I love this. I have in New York, I have this friend, Winton, who was so good at doing that. After a meal, he'd be like, "Who else want tea?" I'm not a big tea girl. He knew where my tea collection was. I kept a good tea collection for him. He would like make everyone tea. And I think of my dad, who whenever I would host or he would host, he would make everyone chai at the end. And in New York, when he would make chai, the whole house smells of like masala chai. So everyone was like in the kitchen, in my like tiny New York apartment kitchen. And it almost felt like an Airbnb experience because everyone's like watching him like do the tricks and whatever. And he's like, smell this now and smell this now. And it's like so funny. But eventually, even with people who don't come from that kind of culture, I think if you set the bar, people can get behind it. And then when you go to their place, you also do it, and the first few times might be uncomfortable for them, but eventually they're like, okay, like this is just the dynamic of our friendship. So sometimes I wonder if we just have to do a little bit of like coercing into this and where to know that it's really making someone uncomfortable. Like I have a friend who has a very specific way of putting in the dishwasher, and I realized that after like months of knowing her, where I was like, okay, she doesn't want help in the dishwasher because she has a system. So now when I offer help, I'm like, I'm going to rinse all the dishes and leave them in the sink, and I'll let you put them in the dishwasher. And she's like, thank you. But she was too shy to ever tell me until somebody else who knows her really well is like, oh, girl, she doesn't want help because she has a system. And she was like, tomato red. And I was like, oh, you should have just told me. Like, it's because then I'm doing your dishwasher, and when I leave, and you're like, oh, fuck. Like,
Yeah. I mean, that's the other thing. It's like when you're offered help, you feel this burden of having to accept it.
Yeah.
And not like negotiating what kind of help that is.
Yeah.
Like that's hard too.
Yeah, fair.
Like, I really appreciate your help. I don't want it in this way. It comes like a lot of people feel
it's like,
whoa,
they're being
okay, rude.
Yeah.
It's like, no, you're helping them help you.
And I feel like there are kind ways to do it. It's like, oh my God, I'm going to come over and help you pack. It's like, that's so sweet. Instead, could you come over and make some calls for me? And they can be like, oh, I'm really bad at making calls. What else is on your list? Like, there is an art or just a level of honesty in wanting to help someone. And sometimes it's like, I'm really bad at making calls. What does that mean? You're bad at dialing numbers? You don't know how to talk? You're not...
Let's have a whole conversation. Yeah. What do you mean you're bad at calls?
Like, I have a friend, right? I know he's not going to be a go-getter. Like, he's not going to hustle the person on the phone to negotiate the thing we need. I don't ask him for phone help. It's just because I'm like, play to your strengths, you know?
Phone help. Like that's a whole category of the phone help.
When you're going through life stuff, so much of admin is just calling someone for a return, an appointment. Yeah. And when I tell you the way I need a man just so he'll do that for me.
So anyone out there that's good at phone stuff,
she's a girl. And a good, slide into my DMs.
But to come back to your question.
That was a joke. Go on.
Or not. But to come back to your question, like, and you'll probably feel similar. Like, I then had a career in tech that was pretty male heavy. Well, it's interesting. Like, there were lots of women there, but it was male structured.
Yeah, we're all women hustling through the lens of a man's hustle. Yeah.
So I think like a lot of my 20s, I felt really ingrained into the capitalistic individualistic value set, that there came a point a few years ago where like I deeply craved, and I don't think I recognized it at the time for what it was, but I deeply craved feminine energy and feminine ways of being.
Yeah.
And like I had some conversations with people about this, and at some point I was like, I just really want to invite women over, sit in a circle, and have like
and start a cult.
Have very specific, intentional kinds of conversations and like activities that help connect us. Little did I know this is a thing. Yeah. Women do this all over the world. Quite intentionally. Like you call it women's circles or whatever. Yeah. I started doing that for myself just with friends. And it was like the nicest thing. I loved it so much. It was like such a nourishing thing for me to have created this. And now in Porto, I've done it once, and I'm planning to do that more, and like creating other kinds of female communities.
I think we're like talking about community a lot, right? And as a culture, not just to you and I sitting here on this couch, but as a culture, we're talking about community a lot. But I think we can't talk about community in this part of the world, or as women who are third culture kids who live in this part of the world, without talking about the other C word, capitalism, right? Those two things, they're not divorced from each other, because I think loneliness is at an all time high. The male epidemic of like loneliness even higher. I won't speak on their behalf, but I think that it's interesting because people are so lonely because they're overworked. And I don't think AI is helping with that, right? There's like two sides to this. There's one cohort of people, like when I went to Dubai recently, I noticed how heavily people lean on AI, but they're trying to use AI to free up more of their time so they can spend that time with family and friends, just playing cards till 2 a.m. at a shisha cafe, right? Whereas in the West, we're using AI to free up more of our times that we can just do more work. So an 80-hour work week is now squeezed into a 40-hour work week. And it's not that AI is helping us live happier lives. So I'm like seeing these two kind of cohorts of people, and it almost feels like a tug of war. And this tug of war to me reads as a parallel to like the East and the West as well. And maybe an internal tug of war of like, where do I land on the spectrum of like my values?
Mm.
Because as someone who has a very like high functioning career in tech, who's been in tech for 10 years, in New York, let alone like just in this world, I see that a lot in myself too. I've like worked really hard and hit specific like milestones in my career, but at the same time, I crave and build and nurture community. So where does one end and the other start? You know, more so. And how do you,
Do they have to be two different parts of your life? Like, how can you
yeah,
make them integrate with each other better?
I don't think so. Like a couple of years ago, a long time ago at the beginning of my career, I went through a layoff, which story for another time, but went through a layoff. And right after that, I remember having this like crisis and talking to my brother and being like, but I know that my end goal is like, you know, helping young girls get educated. Like I really care about this. And I don't think being in like tech and like designing and making apps is going to move the needle. And he said, well, you have two paths. You can go the NGO route, or like this route where you go work for a company where you don't get paid a lot and you do this thing, right? Or you go the route that a lot of philanthropists do, where you get a high paying job and you like funnel that money into these things.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized that I was bad at being poor, and I know what that's like. So I knew I was bad at it. So instead I picked the thing where I like go after my career and really, really work hard for that, and then use my free time to help spaces that matter to me.
Mm.
And I think that was my reconciliation with being someone who exists in a capitalistic environment, but also reaps the benefits of it and aligns with a lot of its systems of living. Like I do think working hard is extremely important. And I do think caring about your career is important. And at the same time, I do think we have a duty to each other, to, to humanity, to like
Mm-hmm.
make this world grow. And honestly, I think pitting those two against each other and making it a zero sum game is a tactic used to keep us lonelier. Like that's my hot take. Maybe not such of
Interesting.
a hot take, but
I think I'm arriving at a similar attitude to you about like, um, I don't want to be poor. And like, money is the route to freedom
yeah,
to a certain extent. But I also have my free time. And like, you can
yeah,
still make the most of your free time too.
yeah,
But it does suck that we live in a system where so many like purpose driven people go the route of like, I need to find a way to gain freedom so that I can do the things my heart wants to do or that my
hmm,
spirit is wanting me to do. So I need to first make loads of money. And
yeah,
it's like
yeah.
this like crazy loop. But I want to share a perspective that I've been reflecting on recently about the AI thing.
Okay.
Because, okay, I mean, there's so much to say about AI. I'm just going to narrow down to the fact that, like, AI is helping us do so much work to the extent that, like, for example, back in the day, before computers, humans were the computers, right? They had to do everything manually, by hand, slow, whatever. And then we had computers, which could do a lot of that work, but you needed the person
To do
operating
that.
the computer.
Yeah.
Now you can get AI to literally do stuff on your computer. It can be the computer and the operator.
Yeah.
And if you like take that idea to like a larger scale, I think a lot of our world is almost going to be self-sustaining in a way, like maybe to a scary extent, but
Yeah.
to some way that And that parallel with, I believe, this shifting attitude around work-life balance, about
Mm-hmm.
well-being, about making sure that you are mindful,
Mm-hmm.
all these things that are hugely prevalent, at least in
Mm-hmm.
my algorithm.
For your algorithm, yeah.
Not everyone's algorithm, but
Yeah.
like I do think there's a pretty universal shift, I hope.
I think in collective cultures and people who think collectively, because you put that lens on in the West, right? Just
Yeah.
on one person, not even like a corporation. They're like, oh my god, now I have all this more free time to just do me.
Yeah.
Like,
Wait, but let me finish my thought. Let me close the loop. So you have the AI doing loads of work for you and like this shifting set of priorities. I think we are naturally going to start orienting back towards community based lifestyle
mm,
and like events based,
yeah,
experience based activities. Also, because I think a lot of people don't have the need to be in cities anymore. There's a geographical element to this. Like, people would move into cities because of work, right? You
sure.
had to be there.
Right, right, right.
Now it's like so many people work remotely. Everyone's just going
Going back to the
building
farms,
a
communes.
farm, yeah, a commune with their best friends.
Oh, to be on a commune.
I know, right? And you know how many people have heard talk about this recently? Like,
Yeah, me too.
it's
I'd
like
love a commune.
it's so within reach
Yeah,
now if you're someone that works remotely and if
yeah.
you're lucky enough and you have enough budget for that kind of thing. But it is like it's pretty within reach, and it's kind of funny that we're going
Mm-hmm.
back and like in a way just leaving the tech to run
Yeah, yeah,
itself.
yeah, yeah. It's that's interesting because I think I see that too, and I agree that more people are going to turn towards community, and I think we've been seeing that for the last couple of years. But it also worries me because anything, when you just think of a business, there's like a supply and demand. So when there's a high demand of community, what is a corporation going to do? They're going to end up making community into a commodity. And we already see that in like all of these big brands that host pop-ups that emulate this idea of a community, or like coffee shops that are also like concept stores that also have all the seating space where you can play games and do this and that. Because human beings across the world, especially in the West, are so lonely. We will do anything to feel like we
Mm,
have a small piece of the pie of community without actually having to nurture and build it. So
mm,
for 2 hours, you get to cosplay that you have a community because you live in this, make believe space. Then you go home and the loneliness is still there. It reminds me of the COVID 2020 era when
mm,
we'd be on a Zoom call for 2 hours and it'd be like fun and dandy. And then you'd close the screen and you're like, fuck. Like, you're still in this like void of your own silence and your home and the fact that you can't leave the house. And I think the commodification of community today is giving me the same energy,
mm,
where it's becoming such a commodity that people are able to casually throw around this term or just like be part of it in a way that feels convenient to them, but not be the one to either nurture it, initiate it, or actually build it on a larger scale or contribute it to a larger scale. Like, people will
mm.
leave their like apartments and go to a nice coffee shop because it feels like a community there. And meanwhile, they don't know their doorman's name, they don't know their bodega guy's name that they go every day, they don't know their cleaners, children's names, and it just makes me wonder. And it goes back to your class element thing that I think you were saying. It's like, do we want community, but we also want to pick and choose what exactly that means? Does community mean just caring about the people? And I think about it as like concentric circles. There's
Mm,
like you, and when you're growing up, there's you, your family, extended family, school, neighbors, whatever. And then you get older, and then there's like you, your friends, school, those like circles switch. But to these people that you interact with in like bodegas and stuff, those people, to them, you are their instant community. Like, you're right there, like work. But to you, they're like further out. So when do you learn how to
mm,
ebb and flow a little bit of like, the community is not just this like perfectly curated Instagram worthy situation that I've built, but it also includes asking like the guy I see 4 times a week, hey, how are you? How are your kids? Oh, your child graduated? That's great. You know what? I actually have a whole bag of outfits I've been meaning to give away. Do you think they might want it? Or are they the same? Just like these little, we don't even know,
I thought you
you
were gonna
know?
offer your bodega guy your outfits.
No, his child. No, like when I was moving, when I was leaving New York, one of the first few people I asked if they wanted anything from my apartment was my cleaner, who I had for 4 years, and I love him to pieces. Shout out to AJ. And I
Shout out
literally,
AJ.
I literally was like, AJ, what do you want? He was like, no, 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 it's fine. I'm like, AJ, what do you want? Like, for real, you know? Like, what do you want?
Is this a Notebook reference? What do you want?
Me. Please add that in the edit.
It's not that simple.
No, but like literally, you're just like, you know, or your friend's sick, and sometimes I'm just like, just tell me what you want. Just like actually make my life easier. And how often do we, I think a lot of people don't even register that these people are part of their community.
Mm.
Your neighbor who you never talk to, like I've moved now. One of the silliest things I miss the most is my neighbor in New York was a veteran in a wheelchair. He was deaf in both like really hard of hearing, deaf in one ear, hard of hearing in the other. He had a dog. I miss chatting in the elevator with him, and he would always ask me some like very politically inclined question where we were always on the same page, but I would never know which direction he was going in. So I'd always be like, and we'd have the best conversation, and then we'd go on our own ways. And every now and then, if I wouldn't see him for like 20 days, I'd like knock on his door. I'm like, are you good? He said, good. Or the neighbor across from me who we became friends because he helped me kill like a cockroach in my apartment once. And then 2 years later, when I really needed his help, shout out to Jose. Like 2 years later, really ended up needing him because turns out his dad is a Spanish diplomat. I needed help with a visa. He came through. And it's just like, sometimes we're so focused on the way community looks and how performative it can be that we forget that community is literally the person you see in the elevator 4 times a week. That it's not actually a commodity. And I think that part comes from capitalism. And I don't feel that as much in Spain, to be fair, but in America I see it a lot.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really interesting point. And like, I don't know what to make of that yet. I'll probably have to reflect on that. It's like the commodification of community. Is that so bad? But also, like, do we want to get to a place where you have to have a subscription for every community you want to be in? And if so, it's like, okay, I'm giving you my money. I'm now expecting something in return. And then this goes against what we were talking about, which is just the value set.
This infinite loop of,
yes. Yeah.
I think to me, subscription as a service, I cannot believe I just said SaaS on a podcast. I think to me, there's value in calling those kind of spaces a network. Calling it a networking club, a networking women's group, whatever. Because we're not fooling ourselves. Nobody is here fooling yourself that this is going to be the community that's going to help you move a couch or sit on the couch with you and watch trash TV. You might network with someone who outside of that. So I think it's more of like when you go to IKEA, you don't say, this is my home. Well, actually, sometimes I do. Bad example. But you don't go to Home of Living and say...
Every corner I go past in IKEA, like,
this is my home.
Let me just slide down here.
But yeah, you don't go to like a warehouse furniture store and you go like, this is my home. You're like, this is where I come to buy things for my home. Yeah. Right? And to me, I think of a lot of these commodified networking spaces as that. But I think that is still valuable and different from big brands creating pop-ups, creating cafes, creating whatever spaces that are meant to emulate a sense of community because it's all performative, right? It's like, oh my God, come and like, we're all going to feel like we're one big happy group, but also buy my product, you know? And it's like, I kind of just wish you'd say, buy my product. Not because I don't value the people I meet there, but taking community and turning it into a business tactic, I kind of just hate that for us. I hate that for us because it implies that we're stupid, that we can't go out there and do it ourselves, that we don't actually know what big brands are doing, you know? And it's like, do you really think I don't, come on, I'm buying your lip gloss anyway. Don't worry about it. But like, don't worry about it. Like, do we have to call it this like big, you know, hallelujah, noble community effort? Yeah. Because like, this is a KPI in your Q3 goals. Shout out to you for filling them out, but this is still a KPI. You know what I mean? Yeah.
So how do we bring this back to people starting from scratch, maybe moving to a new city and like having to find their people? I think we gave a lot of interesting examples that maybe anyone out there could be inspired by, but like, what is maybe a good set of questions we could leave people with?
Before we do that, I actually have a thought.
Okay.
So going back to the commodity thing, when I was starting to like formulate this, or when I was starting to notice this idea that community is now becoming commodified, I used to work at Etsy. This is like 5 years ago, and I was in charge of doing our like annual conference across product, and it's like internally led, 5 companies, whatever, like 300 people, 500 people, whatever. But I had come up with this topic of building vibrant communities um, and finding your superpowers. I think that's what it was called, building vibrant communities and finding your superpowers, whatever it was called. It was something to do with like building community and also finding your superpowers. And it came from this idea and concept in the Baha'i faith, which is if humans were encouraged to think of themselves like the earth, where the earth rotates and revolves at the same time, and it rotates for itself and then revolves for the world, or the other way around.
What?
Like,
Rotates and revolves?
yeah,
What do you mean?
the earth rotates on its axis and revolves around the sun.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
I was like, Tanya, did you know that the earth does? I was like, please don't include this in the podcast, Tanya. People don't need to know that you do. Anyways, so what would it be like if human beings thought of themselves also in this way where we worked on ourselves and the communities around us at the same time, simultaneously, instead of doing one or the other, right? So this conference was built on the same idea where a lot of senior designers, we had invited like 20 or 30 junior designers from outside of Etsy, like to come in and spend one entire day with us, brainstorm, ask us questions, get mentored, show us their work, and basically build with us for like over the span of 2 days. So on day one, everyone sat around, we did exercises, they found their superpowers using these like cards, and it was really fun. And the next day, all the superpowers were put into these groups where they were essentially this collective of superpowers were assigned mentees to then help them. And I think for me, that was a really good example of working against the grain, or what do you do when you want to build community, but it's also turning into a commodity, right? Like, how can you reclaim community building as something that is your own, even through the lens of your career, capitalism, etc. And I think I really enjoyed that, and I wish there were more ways I could find to reclaim community building in this world where it's so commodified.
Or I guess like, creating spaces where you give people a chance to build community.
Amazing.
You can commodify that. It's like,
Yep.
Here's a thing you can go to where you can meet friends.
Where you can meet friends. Yep.
Find like-minded
Yep. Sort of
people.
like the groups you've been kind of do, where it's like, I think you're like-minded. You might get on.
Yeah.
I'm not saying this is your entire community. This is your band of people, but you might meet someone who knows someone who knows someone, Yeah.
That to me is still valuable.
I agree.
As a commodity.
Yeah. That's fair. I agree with that.
Weird, but like...
Yep. I agree with that. Sorry, going back to what you were saying about the questions.
Yeah. Okay, so to end on some questions maybe that would help you think about how you might want to approach building community, even if you're not like in a new city, you just want to build community. I guess one thing is like very simple. What can you do? What simple thing can you do to invite more community in your life? It doesn't have to be go create one, but it's like, how do you invite it? Are you noticing that people are inviting you to something that you're just like, no, I'm tired and blah, blah, blah. But you could just say, not no.
Not no.
Turn it into a yes.
Or like, yes worries, and just be like, okay, it's fine.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, like, are you going to an art show? Could you ask someone if they'd want to go with you? If you're trying a new like recipe, could you ask a friend to be like, hey, do you want to try this with me or be my taste tester if they're not really good in the kitchen or don't like the kitchen?
Yeah.
There are like really small ways. It doesn't have to be a big grand. It also doesn't have to be just dinners. It could be a walk in the park. It can be like, hey, spring's coming. The flowers in the park near me are really good. Do you want to go and find 10 green flowers or 10 pink flowers? Like, whatever.
Yeah.
Or
like simply, if there's a kind of community that you have the desire to have in your life, like, can you think of one or two people that you know that probably would feel the same? Because if they feel the same, why not just strike up a conversation about it and start there?
Yeah.
Even if your community ends up just being 3 people that are like into the same thing, that is still a community. Yeah.
And if you feel like you can't think of even 2 people, think about where those kinds of people would hang out. Where would you hang out? Is it bookstores? Is it a cafe? Is it, I don't know, a dance class? And maybe put yourself in those spaces a little bit often and just, muster up the courage of speaking to just one stranger. being like, "Hi, what book are you reading?" Or "How long have you been going to this dance studio?"
Yeah.
Yeah, and who knows? It might turn into a longer conversation, that might turn into coffee, that might turn into a date where they come over and be your sous chef in the kitchen.
Yeah.
Yeah. Before we end, I also want to ask you, as someone who's worked in tech and has a really really busy life as well, when your life has been really busy, how have you found a way to fold community in or interact with community? Do you feel like you just could do it easily, or did you have a certain way of like approaching that?
Mm. Well, I think, like, in times in my career when I was really busy,
Yeah.
I found that hard. I don't think I was particularly good at it, but,
Okay.
like, I mean, one thing that we did do when I lived in London was, like, we enjoyed playing Frisbee at the park,
Hmm.
and, I think this was actually during COVID as well, when people could see each other outside. I was like, "Why don't we just start an ultimate Frisbee group? Just make this a community.
I
Start a
love
WhatsApp
that.
group. Just
That's
invite people to
awesome.
the WhatsApp group and be like, 'Hey, just come and show
Yeah.
up if you want to.
Yeah.
Bring your friends and whatever.'" And that was okay, that was during COVID. That community still exists. I'm
I
not
love
there,
that.
but they're still there playing
Which is
Frisbee.
amazing because you created something that's self-sustaining.
Yeah, and it's like, if you do something already, you like something already, why don't you just bring the community
Bring
to
more people
you?
into it. Yeah, because there will be other people who might like it too.
Yeah. What
That's
about you?
awesome. Yeah, for me, I've always thought of like, I think in the efforts of building community, you might not be able to give it what you can always give. So like one person might be able to give time, one might be able to give their expertise, one might be able to give like a monetary help. So when I was like really, really busy, I'd often give my keys to friends and I'm like, you can host in my apartment, but I won't be there. Or I would be like, offer to buy the snacks and pay for that, even though if I wasn't physically there, or like design the invite for it, or, invite two extra people and be like, hey, I won't be there, but I think you'd really enjoy this. So just finding ways to still be like plugged in, but not being actively in it. And I think those are still important roles in a
Yeah.
community because there's
That's
so
really
many
creative
things.
thinking of you as well, because I think by default, people would be like, "Oh, I can't come to this event.
So I
Hands
can,
off."
yeah.
But you're like, "Oh, how can I still contribute
Yeah,
in
it's like,
some
"Hey, I
ways?"
can't go," but, and this has happened a few times where there've been, like, events around art design. I can't go, I'll share it with a friend. They've gone, they've met another friend from there, and, those friends are now, like, working for somebody like, it's just, like, it's how the world runs, and I think it's helpful to remember that the only way to build community and be in community is not necessarily to physically be in community.
Mhm.
Yeah, I
Mhm.
think that's what it'd be for me.
Nice. Alright. I think let's wrap up then. There's a
Yeah,
lot of, like, juicy stuff.
yeah.
Super enjoyed speaking with you, and I hope
Love
this was
you.
a interesting
Conversation
or
for you
thought-provoking
guys.
conversation. Would love to know any thoughts in comments or
Or how
whatever.
you
Just
build community.
yeah, like, I wanna learn as well how people do this in
Yeah.
this day and age and in this, stage of life.
Mhm.
So tell us your story. Would be super interested. And thank you, Meher, for your company,
Of
your
course. Thank you for
friendship.
having me. And if you don't already, like, comment, follow, subscribe, save. Part of helping communities, also helping your friends' side projects and endeavors and fun things they're doing. Sorry, I'm not giving you a chance to do this bit. But yeah, if you heard any of this and you haven't hit follow or like, what are you doing? What's going on? What's going on here?
Thanks. Okay, bye, everybody. Lots of love.